Hello, my name is Darryl Robert Schoon, and on the previous program, I discussed Ben Bernanke, his belief that he held the keys to solving Great Depression. Mentored by Milton Friedman, he believed that all you had to do simply was to expand the money supply, which contracts during deflationary collapses. And this money supply had contracted during the Great Depression, and Friedman had thought quite simply that all you had to do was increase the money supply and poof, you've solved the problem. If it were that easy, all of us would be in better shape right now. But it didn't work, and I want to explain really what has happened to the American economy and give you a little background on it. People don't understand economics. And it's because they don't want you to understand economics. It's really, it's common sense. I mean, I'm sure you heard about supply and demand, all right? The greater supply, the lower the price, the higher demand. If the demand goes up, prices go up. Demand goes down, prices drop. If supply goes up, prices drop. If supply goes down, prices go up. It's like a teeter-totter, okay? And the market is always trying to find equilibrium between supply and demand, okay? This is true with heat, housing, doctors, any services of any kind. This is economics. Now, the reason why you don't understand modern economics is that they did something to it. They distorted it. They distorted supply and demand with credit and debt, all right? And when they introduced credit and debt into the system, it distorted demand and it distorted supply. For example, the housing boom during 2000-2006 was a total distortion with cheap credit upon the housing market. And that's what it pushed supply and demand out of whack, all right? That's what the bankers do. The bankers paper money. The bankers hybrid paper debt-based money distorts supply and demand. And it distorts it in a way that is to their advantage. Because they're the ones that control the supply of credit. They're the ones that can see where it's headed, get there before you do, sell it to you, and then when you buy it and can't pay for it, they take it back. It's real sort of simple. It's sort of like playing with it's sort of like foxes playing with chickens, all right? And you may think you're a fox, but you're really a chicken, all right? And they're the foxes, okay? And they don't dress up like foxes. They dress up like eagles or some fine-looking creature, because you're smart enough as a chicken to know what a fox is going to do to you. But you don't know what they're going to do to you if they look like I don't know, anything, like a banker, for example, all right? Banker wouldn't do that to me. They're nice people. They're respectable people, all right? But really, they're foxes. Now, what they've done is they've created an economic system, okay? An economic system by which you are disadvantaged. If you are a wage earner, if you do anything in the economy, the money that you make depreciates, constantly loses value. Why? Because they're constantly printing more of their paper money. So that means if you're a pensioner and you retired 10 years ago, you're worse off than the pensioners that retire now or retire next year. And certainly the ones who are going to retire in 5 years, because the people who are going to retire in 5 years are going to have no pension at all. But generally, the sooner you were in the marketplace and when you made your money, you being further away from the spigots of credit are disadvantaged. The bankers who create credit are always advantaged. They always have the advantage over you. I don't care whether you are a politician, you need their money so you can show your constituency you're doing something for them. So you borrow money from the bankers to make your constituents happy so you can get reelected. If you're a businessman, you need the banker's credit to open your business. All right? Everybody has to go to the bankers for their money. What they don't know is that their money are pieces of coupons that they print, that your government has given them the power to do so. Before, in America, before 1913, they didn't have that power. They had to have actual savings and deposits to loan it out back to you. After 1913 and the Federal Reserve came in, the private bankers took over the business of issuing money. This was what I call the first act of privatization in America. And I tell you, it wasn't good for America, but it was really good for the bankers. And now, almost 100 years later, they own the government, they own everybody. And how do they own you? They have you indebted. All right? You're seeing a crisis in Greece. Why? Greece is indebted beyond its ability to pay. Well, who loaned them the money? Bankers. These are smart people. German bankers, French bankers, Swiss bankers, American bankers. These are the kind of people that ascertain the ability of the borrower to repay that loan. Now, they knew those loans were going to be repaid, but they knew they could grab their assets and squeeze them hard enough that they would never be able to get away from them. That's why the foxes are so happy with you, the chickens. They've got you exactly where they want you to be. Now, what happened when the system collapsed in 2008? It collapsed because it had started to collapse in 2000 when the dot-com bubble, the biggest bubble since the 1929 stock market collapsed. 1929 stock market collapsed, and I want to tell you what happens when a bubble collapses. When a bubble collapses, that means that they put so much credit out, people have taken so many loans out, that everything has gone so high and it collapses and they can't pay the loans back. Well, what happens to those loans if they can't be repaid? Somebody gave them money, whether they're banks, whether they're businessmen. Somebody owes that money. And if it can't be repaid, then the whole system collapses. This is what happened when the stock market collapsed in the year 2000. And so they put another bubble in place to put more money into the system and created a real estate bubble. Now, I think all of you remember that real estate bubble. Remember when you could sell your house tomorrow? Remember that wonderful thing when you had bought that house for, let's say, $400,000, and you went in there and, and 3 months later you could sell it for $450,000? Boy, what a wonderful world you were living in. I would call it a fool's paradise, all right? Because it didn't last very long. Now you may still own that house, all right? Or should I say that house owns you, all right? Now, you're stuck. You're going to get screwed by the banks. Now, the banks, they didn't get screwed. They got bailed out by the government. Why? Why did the government bail out the banks and not bail out you? After all, the government is supposed to serve you. You're the citizens, all right? And they're supposed to serve you. Well, let me make it real simple. The government lives on borrowed money like you do. And if the bankers aren't there, they can't borrow the money to placate you, the chickens. You are the chickens in the game. You're the chickens in the game to the bankers and to the government. Now, I know they don't treat you like that. They never call this, they never tell you to your face that you're the chickens in this Ponzi scheme that they've got going. You're hardworking, you're responsible, you take your debt burdens responsibly, and you're going to pay off those debts because you incurred them legally and you're a man of honor. Now, the banks, they'll walk away from them. The government, they'll walk away from them. But not you. You're the chump, you're the chicken in their game. But that was then, this is now. Where are you today? Where you are is you are caught in the same trap that the bankers in. The bankers outsmarted themselves. They didn't expect this to happen. Why? These are the smartest people in the world. And if you remember 2008, they're all going, what? What? I mean, the sky is falling in. The smartest people in the world didn't expect the sky to fall in. When they had constructed these subprime loans, when they allowed the government allowed them to bet the savings of Americans, why didn't they expect the sky to fall in? Because they think they're so damn smart that they can run the game. Now, they can manipulate you. They can manipulate other people they give debt, they give loans to, but they can't manipulate reality. And that's what caught up with them. What caught up with the central bankers, what caught up with economists was their blind spot. And their blind spot was pure human arrogance. The arrogance that they had the tools to fix anything that went wrong. Greenspan didn't have the tools, and neither does Ben Bernanke. Ben Bernanke's first tool is called QE1. All right? QE1. This is when he put Milton Friedman's solution into play. Country collapses, deflationary collapse, demand collapses, private demand goes to shit. No, everybody's broke. All right? I mean, they're not going to hire more workers. They'd be fools to. All right? So everybody pulls back. Everybody pulls back. Everybody pulls back. Well, I want to tell you, capitalism is like a bicycle. It doesn't do well at slow speeds. Capitalism continually needs to expand. Why? To pay back compounding debt. It's built into the system. Capitalism needs to expand. When you hear somebody talk about growth, we're going to grow our way out of this. We're going to increase growth. It's because they know they need to expand the Ponzi scheme to pay off the compounding debt that has been accrued along the way. Because if they can't pay off that constantly compounding debt, it's like the rear wheel of the bicycle overtakes the front wheel and the bike falls over. Now, this is what happens when the economy starts slowing down. The front wheel slows down and that back wheel keeps speeding up. This is the magic of compound interest. It doesn't stop. It's like a devil's whip. Now, you may falter. You may be that front wheel. You may need to stop for breath. You may need a rest because they squeezed everything out of you. But that devil's whip of that rear wheel is going faster and faster and faster. That's why economies need to expand. They never explain this to you, all right? They just say, we need to expand. By cutting taxes, we're going to expand. Well, what happened is that front wheel started slowing up, seizing up. That back wheel is continually moving faster, and the governments knew they were in trouble, and the economists knew it too. So what they did was they substituted the collapsing private demand with more public demand. Now, where did this demand come from? Governments live off of taxes and borrowing. They've already squeezed as much taxes out of taxpayers as they can. All right? They've already borrowed to the limit. So what they started doing was they started writing themselves IOUs. The Federal Reserve now owns more U.S. Treasury debt than any country, even China. Even China. Everybody talks, oh, you know, the Chinese, they have all these treasuries, they're buying all our debt, buying all our debt, buying all our debt. They're manipulating their currencies by, you know, buying our debt, you know. Well, you know who owns most of U.S. debt, except for the Fed now, is Asian manufacturers. They make things. They make things. And they sell them to us, and we give them pieces of paper. And who else owns our foreign currencies? Our oil producers. Why? Because they pump stuff that Americans use called oil, turns into gasoline, and we give them pieces of paper. So what we've done is we've handed IOUs that are worth nothing. Before 1971, when you handed a paper dollar to any country, they could turn around and go to the treasury and get an ounce of gold for that paper. That's why that paper had value. I mean, why in the hell would they give you that valuable oil for an IOU when you couldn't pay it off? Why would you manufacture something and give it to the guy down the street who's going to give you a piece of paper that's an IOU and you know the guy's broke and he's a debtor? Because they own the game now. They have been so successful, they have trapped everybody, oil producers, manufacturers, into accepting the paper coupons. It used to be called, they call it money, but I want you to see, I want you to look at this dollar bill or a yuan or a euro, any piece of paper that you take out that you call money, and I want you to hold it up and say, this is a coupon. And it has an expiration date written in invisible ink. All right? I want you to do that because someday that coupon is not going to be redeemed. Or it's going to lose so much value, it's going to take you 10 coupons to buy what one coupon will buy you today. That's called inflation. And when it takes 100 coupons to buy what one coupon buys you today, that's called hyperinflation. And if you don't think we're already on that road to perdition, I want you to remember a company. I remember it, and you see it every once in a while. You go down the freeways, and you see these things called Motel 8, Super 8. Motel 8, Motel 8. Motel 8 was a great gimmick of marketing ploy during the 1970s of a nationwide motel chain that guaranteed its overnight cost of each bed, each room for $8. It was used to be called Motel 6, as a matter of fact. It's just so terrible. It was originally called Motel 6. All right? Now what happened is they started printing so many coupons, they had to change it in a couple of years to Motel 8. And then they realized they looked like fools if all of a sudden they're putting up signs like gas stations and changing it to Motel 37, Motel 41. It'd become a national joke. So they kept it at Motel 8. And when I wrote my book, I went up and checked on what prices were in Motel 8s. And they ranged from a low of $61 to a high of $111, depending on where the motel was located. If the Motel 8 was in Santa Barbara, you were going to pay top dollar. If the Motel 8 was in some crummy suburb by a freeway, you were going to pay $57, $61. All right? That's inflation, my friends. When those coupons that you call money start degrading in value because of the amount that they printed. Now, this is where we are today. This is where we are today, and this is the real danger. We are in the grasp of another Great Depression. Now, I know you don't understand what a Great Depression is, but I have a sense that you understand the importance of a toilet. All right? Now, let's say you come home and your toilet's running. All right? You go in there, and what do? You jiggle it. You reach over and jiggle that handle. And if you're lucky, it stops. It's like magic. Jiggle, jiggle. Stops. Do you know what it did? Not really. I mean, maybe you know that there's a valve in there, then it adjusts the air pressure. Maybe. I don't have no idea. But I know if you jiggle it, and it works, you're a lucky guy. It's like magic. Jiggle, jiggle, jiggle. Magic, okay? Now, if you jiggle it, and it doesn't go away, this means it's a little more serious. So what you do is you jiggle a little harder. You push it a little harder, okay? And if it goes away, you're still in good luck. But let's say it doesn't go away. So what do? You know it, and it starts running worse and worse and worse. The problem's getting worse. So you phone up a plumber, okay? And you know it's going to cost money, and you know it's on the weekend, but you know you can't live without a toilet. You just can't live without a toilet, all right? I don't care how much money you have. You can't live without a toilet. So you pay the plumber to come over, and he fixes it, all right? Now, what a depression is when you call the plumber over, and he looks at you after looking at it, and he says, I can't fix it. And you go, what do you mean you can't fix it? He says, no, I can't fix it. He said, well, now you're getting afraid. Oh, well, listen, we'll go buy a new toilet. You know, put a new valve. No, buy a whole toilet. Sir, that's not going to work. It's not going to fix it. We'll tear up the pipes. We'll put new pipes in. Sir, that's not going to work. This is what a depression is. A depression is a systemic breakdown when supply and demand get so distorted by credit and debt that the system will no longer work. You've broken it. You've taken that engine, you put your foot on the gas, you went down the freeway, you burned up the oil, and the damn thing blew up on you, and I don't care who you call, I don't care what roadside assistance that you have, you ain't going to fix it. It's done. It's toast. Now, if you can do that to a car, you can do it to an economy. And they did it in the 1930s. And nothing they could do could fix it. Except World War II came along out of the blue. You can thank Hitler for solving the Depression. All right? He solved the Depression. Good old Hitler, you know? I mean, he wasn't real good at human relations, but the guy had the key to the economy. Now, the thing is this. You cannot fix what's going on now. Ben Bernanke tried to with QE1. He tried to with QE2. And as I am speaking now, global economy is again beginning to contract and slow down. They have poured trillions of dollars of money that they printed out of thin air to try and restart the economy. But it's like pouring more gasoline in a flooded engine. It isn't going to work. And I don't care how important it is. It doesn't, the fear of it not working isn't enough to make it work. The fact that this thing is going to go to dust, the fact that what are we going to do tomorrow, the fact that it's going to destroy the economy of the world isn't enough to fix what can't be fixed. Now, this is where we are today. Ben Bernanke has had two tries at the wheel. QE1 didn't work, all right? So he came in with QE2, and now it doesn't work either. Well, he may come up with some iteration that they'll call QE3. Now, what it does, every time he prints more money to pour into an already flooded and broken economy to restart something that is not going to restart, let me use another metaphor. Let's say you have an infection. All right? Let's say you have an infection. So they give you antibiotics. All right? And let's say the infection is so bad, they give you another round of antibiotics. Well, let's say the infection is so bad, they give you another round and triple the dose. If they continually give you these antibiotics, you're going to die from the antibiotics. It is going to destroy your immune system. It is going to destroy every ability of your body to function. And whatever was wrong with you in the beginning is not going to matter because the cure is going to destroy the body. The Chinese have a term for this, an old Chinese saying. It's called drinking poison to cure thirst. All right? Now, this is what they've done. They have printed so much money in the last 2 years that is yet to be cleaned out of the system, and they're going to print even more because they're in more trouble. They are destroying the value of those coupons. Those coupons that you have, that used to, it would take you, what is it? It'd take you, you used to buy I remember when you could get a gallon of gas when I was a kid for 19 cents a gallon. All right? Now, 19 cents a gallon, people used to be, when I was a kid in law school, you could buy a lid of pot for $10. An ounce of pot, $10. All right? Now I haven't smoked in years. All right? But I do know that people who buy it now, they're paying a whole lot of money for an ounce. Now, what has changed in value? An ounce of pot is an ounce of pot. $1 is $1. Or is it? Or is it? That dollar says $1. That dollar looks like $1, but that dollar will not get you what that dollar used to get you. This is what happens when you let bankers print money. And the reason they print money is they give that money to you, give it to you in the form of a loan that you have to pay back with compounding interest. And they live off that interest. The more you owe, the more they make. The more you owe, the more they make. Bankers now are making billions of dollars running hedge funds, and you are being run into the ground. There's a connection here. I don't know if you've made it yet, but you will. You will. And I want to say something. You would not have known even this, and you would not have accepted even the possibility that what I have told you is true had you not been in the trouble you're in now. It has taken the collapse of the economic system for some light to be shed on the evil that this system really is. This is a truly evil, diabolical system that is working for the bankers. It is not working for anyone else. It was created by bankers and government and taxpayers, entrepreneurs, pensioners. Well, I think you know what happened to them.